Hey, welcome back. It's week 3 with the Irish Coffee and Donuts Show. We are your humble correspondents here. But what I started doing last night was just writing things down. Goody pulls the third down reception to keep the drive going against Purdue. Absolutely amazing. One-handed while he's being interfered. That was his only catch of the game.
Right.
You didn't hear from him since. But props to Johnny. I don't know. You got.
Well, first of all, I love how once they showed the replay, I love how that play actually was manifested by him kind of running across the middle and then like pointing back to the corner, which is like more of a basketball kind of thing. Like, oh, hey, back door, alley-oop. So that was great. But we've obviously spoken here. We from the same hometown as Johnny G. So I think just kind of knowing the inside story for us of how he probably feels a lot of vindication. Just, it was he had to work some things out to come back, I believe, and just to come back. And if you watch him on Twitter, he really, really loves Notre Dame. He just really, really loves being there. And it's just a great thing for a really great kid. I mean, that's exactly what it was.
All right, so here I've got 4 or 5 pages of note cards here of just random thoughts as I'm watching the game. I'm gonna read through these.
Cue cards, you mean?
Cue cards.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of these are just gonna be statements. Some of these I'll be questioned and I'll give you an opportunity to respond.
Okay.
Toma, several huge catches. Toma's a nice piece. He was a nice piece of the offense. I really enjoyed that. He's good. On the flip side, Golick is not good. The guys get past him. What is the deal with Golick?
Was he at least the one that came out and hit the guy trying to come around the corner at the very, very end of the game? Like the guy actually came around when we were in the victory formation looking like he was going to take a cheap shot. It was 50. I believe it was him that went over and tried to at least stop the Michigan State guy, but I don't know. I guess I haven't seen that specifically. I'm victim of watching the entire offensive line as a unit, so I'm going to have to take your word on that.
Golick got smoked several times. One thing that was weird to me is we ran a lot of these swing passes that for whatever reason the timing is just off. I mean, I don't think that they can run in between the tackles. They could not run between the tackles. And as a proxy, you have that little swing pass as a chance to get out to the edge. We missed a lot of those swing passes.
One of the things that I don't get about that is, and I don't know if this is a touch thing on Golson, and if it is, it's pretty much forgivable. The guy's obviously so young. But Toma had to consistently turn his hips around one way or the other. It's like he always had that ball and he was twirling, whereas the ball wasn't out in front of him where he could just put his hands out there and catch it in stride. So, you know what? Every quarterback kind of has some Achilles heels with throws. Remember
Achilles heel, listen at you.
Sorry. If you recall, Brady Quinn used to sail people that were 10 yards away. It was just his thing. He couldn't make the short touch pass. I think Golson totally can, but I agree. That play didn't work. I have never, ever, ever, even Samardzija and Stovall, never been a fan of throwing down the line. It's just my personal thing. But when the guy has to turn his hips around, it's just a hard thing to do before you even get to the line of scrimmage.
And that's a recipe for disaster on the one time when the ref rules it as a lateral. Your guy drops it.
Hey, USC. I mean, we all remember the USC game last year. That happened.
Speaking of Golson, what do you think about those commercials where Golson's shaking his finger? Looks a little bit like Michael Jordan, doesn't it? With the no.
Okay, if you have yet to hear a podcast, there was a definite force of Golson turning into Michael Jordan. One of the things I did know is that he's ready for the camera to be in front of him, as opposed to the other Michigan State quarterback, Maxwell, who they showed and spoke in monotone for 12 seconds, and was like, hi, I'm Maxwell. And Golson's here, like Braxton Cave's pushing him over, he's probably flirting with the girl behind the camera, like very photogenic. So they got their money's worth out of his little finger wag on the promos. But hey, man, the fact that he's taking ownership of it and he's not being real cocky. He's got to do it. You're a quarterback in Notre Dame. Why not? I have no problem with it.
Do you remember that 15-yarder they called on Shembo? What a weak penalty. I go back and look at that, man.
You're talking about the guy driving the guy out of bounds?
Oh, my gosh. He barely pushed him about 2 yards out. I mean, that was a weak call.
The only thing I've ever asked for out of refereeing, it doesn't even have to be the best refereeing. All I've asked for is consistency. And if you watch the game from beginning to end, obviously at some point Michigan State was feeling some frustration, getting a little bit chippy. So that one was just a victim of, it was ticky-tack when you look at the entire game together. There was a ton of guys pushing and shoving after the play that never got called. So yeah, to have that one, I wouldn't go so far as to say it was like a complete miscall. I mean, he was out of bounds, and I think he just kind of fell and pushed the guy. But one of my tweets said there was more balls thrown in the stands and more tackles made out of bounds from the field last night than I had seen. And so
that being said,
if you're in the crowd in the front few rows, it was like SeaWorld. I mean, there was action.
Other than that, Shembo was an absolute wrecking ball. I mean, that guy was wreaking havoc. I feel like Devontae Neal is just a ticking time bomb as far as a return. He's coiled. He's compressed. And times of compression lead to times of explosion. I just feel like he's going to get loose.
I totally agree, and there's a couple factors there. One, there is this weird connection between all the punts where there's just there's a weird building momentum, it seems, because you know that he's not, let's be honest, he's not doing what John Goodman was doing, which is being back there, whether he was coached to do it or not. He's not just back there catching it and fair catching. He is looking for it every time, and it's just not working out because of the way that the punts are. So I totally agree. He looks like a coiled spring, and I'd love to see for him kind of break one out and show some of his moves.
That stretch delay counter, I don't know if you remember this play, like Golson's like sprint one side and then it's the delay counter to Atkinson coming back the other way. That play was dirty.
Yeah.
They tried to run it again later. It was the other time that Atkinson come back in. I think Michigan State was keyed into it.
Right.
That play was sick.
Well, you mentioned before throwing down the line, and the biggest thing about that play. Now there was also kind of a cousin to that play, which is one that Riddick got tripped up. The guy just grabbed one of his cleats. Yep. But when they were unable to run inside, which was obviously the only facet of the game that Notre Dame didn't seem really confident in, was just running it up the gut. Those little counter plays have worked very, very well for them. The one you're describing is a complex play, but what they did on that play, the one where Riddick got tripped, and also the fourth down play was absolute. It was a symphony, that 4th and 1 that they went for, the way that ran with the motion down the line. If anybody's rewatching the game, watch that play. It's after a timeout. Kelly's saying, hey, I'm going to go for it. They're on like the 40. And that play had a lot of moving parts on a 4th down, and it was a thing of beauty to watch that one.
But relative to our conventional running attack, it's just Sierre I thought was going to blow up. He didn't. Our running game, but especially between the tackles, is virtually non-existent. It's not, and that frightens me. I mean, we've been successful without it, but at this point, I have yet to see a team that can run between the tackles after Navy, maybe, and that's a little bit disturbing.
Yeah, well, let me throw a question back to you. And again, we have talked about this previously, and it's not like we came up with the idea. We all know that there's a stable of running backs now. How much do you think there is to the fact that you got to have one guy in there maybe to start seeing some of the seams that he can go for in between the actual line? When you have 3 guys, you talked about Atkinson earlier coming in as a specialty, and even Herbstreit, I think Herbstreit mentioned they probably know this play is coming because that's the only thing Atkinson does is come in and does that play. So does somebody need to get anointed as the first running back to start getting more comfortable back there?
I think there's something to be said for getting some reps and getting some momentum and getting
it's Wood's
comfortable
first game back, obviously.
In the game. But now I'll jump here on a couple down the list for me though. One thing I did notice on the rotation of the defense, they got guys, Sheldon Day comes in, Tuitt's taking a blow. They are just turning guys in left and right, and it is great to see fresh legs coming in with depth of guys that they trust. They feel like they can put them in without a huge drop off in production. Sheldon Day's sack was out of control, and that was like I attribute that to the guys coming in fresh, rapid substitutions on defense, and that's great to see that there's the depth that you can do it.
Yeah, well, obviously, anytime you have a lot of depth on the team, you're excited. But one of the other things, and this happens on offense too. This goes all the way back again to the first podcast we ever had, saying, do we really have a number 1 receiver right now? I mean, obviously, it wasn't Eifert last night. We know that. Everybody's contributing, and what I like about that many guys going in, you have a very small window to carve out a name for yourself. Golson's the guy who's going to get a lot of.
You got to capitalize.
When you're out there, it's your time to shine. It's prime. There's a lot of primetime games this year. There's a lot of people watching Notre Dame because of Teo, because of Eifert. There's a lot of NFL people watching them. You know what I mean? Like, so when you're out there, and the fact that these D-line guys they got the face mask of the New York Giants. I'm just
the shredder face mask. And I will say this while we're on the topic: Tony Springman looks like a Viking god out there. The hair, the attitude. He's a Fort Wayne boy. Obviously, we love him. He's a Viking god. Great stuff. So last thing here, I'll touch on this. Laveon Bell. They made him earn every single yard he got. I ended up with like 77 yards or whatever it was. Nothing spectacular. I think net rushing, Michigan State ended up with 50 yards just because of like 25 yards of sack yardage that went against him. But they made him earn every single yard that he got. his yards after contact were minimal, and there was always somebody there to put a hat on him.
Yeah, and obviously as a homer, we tried to downplay a little bit. I think you actually maybe tweeted that he didn't have very many yards against Notre Dame previously, but really watching him, and granted, I have to tip the cap to anybody that does the hurdle. I mean, it's an elite club that we've mentioned. Anybody that hurdles somebody, I got to tip the cap. But yeah, he looks like a really good running back, and I think there's more. Hey, Notre Dame's really validating themselves as a run-stopping defense than Laveon Bell is a fluke. You know what I mean? So I felt great about it, and I totally agree. He's probably feeling a little rough today.
Did you see Swarbrick on there with the ESPN sideline chick?
Yes.
He owned that interview.
Yes.
Swarbrick is a smooth operator.
As far as I know, and that he is a lawyer before an athletic director. So yeah, he knew that type of comment was coming, and I say what you will about him, but he's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
He's doing a great job.
I mean, with what has gone on in the past, we don't really get too much into the administration in the back room as far as this podcast, but to have him out there, it seemed appropriate, whereas maybe in the past it wasn't. It was appropriate. It was right on the heels of the ACC announcement, which seems like a good thing. The only people hating on it are using this tired old, relevance argument.
They're Big Ten. They're Big Ten.
You know what? It looked great, and the fact that Notre Dame was kind of like this quasi ACC team last night, beating up on the Big Ten team on the road, it made it kind of sweet.
It's something to me, and I don't know if it was because they had an early lead or they looked like they were in command, but Kelly to me looked a lot calmer last night. He was coaching. He was actually seems like he was freed up. Maybe if Martin's calling some plays, Kelly's calling some plays, but he was on the sideline. When the defense is out there and he's coaching Golston up. I think Kelly missed Shimbo's 15-yarder. He would have been in his.
Yes, he absolutely missed.
He would have been in his grill. But I did notice that Kelly seemed a lot more relaxed and looked like he genuinely trusted the guys instead of just being on the edge and in full panic mode.
Yeah, and
that was nice to
that
see.
was coming out at the very beginning of camp, saying, "Oh, I'm going to be more buddy-buddy." And if you look at how Brian Kelly coached, he was pretty authoritarian, and for him to be saying, "I'm going to be buddy-buddy this year," it's kind of like, is this a PR thing? Are you really going to do this? But hey, whatever it is, let's not even comment on it. It's working. There's great chemistry out there. He's trusting guys. Guys are trusting him back. I didn't see the wristband thing. Made me nervous. It seemed like it was working. Guys were looking at the wristband and sent it back to the side. Hey,
they ought to stick with it.
It worked for the first game. It was great.
I hate to be negative on these things. I mean, we do want to support the guys that do a good job, point out the things that maybe, whatever. We're two guys in Portland, Indiana. Maybe our opinion doesn't matter. But I hate to be negative. But is Ben Koyak a dud? Is he not good? He missed so many passes. I don't understand why he can't grasp the offense or why he doesn't fit in. Do you see that?
Right. Yeah, I do. And again, like you said, nobody wants to be. We don't want to be negative, especially with the players being in a position that we would kill to be in. But I think that any time you see somebody underperforming, just to try to kind of put a silver lining on that, that's a sign that. It's blatantly obvious when somebody is not performing the way everybody else is because everybody else is doing so well. So, like I said, maybe just to put a silver lining is to say that it's obvious when you're not acting like Prince Shimbo out there. Yeah. He's going crazy. Yeah. And if you're not giving it your all, you're going to stand out because everybody else is at breakneck speed, and you got to get there.
Golston should have been picked off 3 times in one drive. I don't know if you remember that. There was one that I think it was TJ Jones was going down for it, tipped it up, ended up hitting the linebacker's hands. He tried to take off running before he had the ball. There was another one he threw out to the sideline. Golston should have been picked off 3 times in one drive. Is it interesting to you that the ball is bouncing our way in 2012 instead of against us? It's unreal, right?
If by interesting do you mean am I praying like rosaries every night and burning incense? Yes, I do. And we made that comment in the Navy game. Again, after that first podcast after the Navy game, Notre Dame didn't really need it, but the fact that you were watching Navy cadets hanging their heads because they had 9 turnovers or whatever it was, that was a great thing. So it is surprising that the ball is bouncing their way because we were starting to feel like Charlie Brown trying to kick a football for the past 10 years. But you know what? The flip side of that was we also had 3 picks that we just about had. One of them Russell had. I mean, that ball, I swear, went through his hands. So, I mean, I think a part of that with Golston, too, is, let me throw it back to you this way. Do you still see him being a little bit tentative, even though some of those picks were just reads?
I will say this. There was a first couple, maybe the first or second drive, there was a couple times Golston finally had no problem going deep. I mean, He let the play develop. He sat in the pocket, and when he looked, he made his reads, and then he threw deep. And so from that standpoint, he's maybe growing into that position or becoming a little bit more comfortable with it. Let me ask you this. Is it just me, or when D'Antonio is in front of a camera, when he speaks, when the camera's on him in a press conference, it always seems like it's a scene from Saving Private Ryan. He has these facial expressions. He looks like he could be crying, or he just, I don't know.
No, I totally agree. If anybody has read Death of a Salesman and you picture like Willie Loman, you know, like he looks like that. He looks stressed out, and hey, I have no problem with the fact that Notre Dame put him in that situation. But yeah, he looked really. Now the other guy, the defensive coordinator that they kept showing coming down, he was kind of, his eyes are bugging out trying to figure out what's going on. So I liked seeing that as well. But yeah, he just looks like he's not having fun at all out there. But I tell you what, the former coach John L. Smith looked the exact same way when he was getting pummeled by Alabama.
That's true.
Down in Arkansas.
Comment: Doritos Locos Tacos look so damn good in those commercials.
The Instagram
commercial.
flying through. Yeah, so that's something you're like, wow, I really wish I had the time to actually drive to the nearest Taco Bell.
I wish I wasn't so wasted. I'd be playing bumper cars on the way to Taco Bell.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Another totally random thought here. How in the hell did Pittsburgh beat Virginia Tech? I didn't see any of the game. I just saw the score. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest. Haven't watched either one of those teams, but that is one that came up, and that wasn't like, hey, on any given Saturday, somebody. I think they beat him by 21 points. It was insane.
I think Prince Shembo just made a tackle for loss or sack for somebody again. I don't know that guy.
Sack somebody in a lunch line or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I mean he is an absolute freaking machine.
Excellent.
Bob Diaco seems like he actually knows what's going on. Maybe it was too premature. He didn't have the personnel in place, or he didn't have something installed the way he wanted it to be. The defense, Diaco looks like he has command of that defense and has him doing what needs to get done.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, and you see I think we're seeing fingerprints, obviously, of Brian Kelly all over the offense, and Chuck Martin, but Diaco, if we go back to some of the previous defensive coordinators that we were used to, Corbin Brown, you know, when he was as the assistant, but I think he was kind of by proxy, was he the DC for one season maybe, Corbin Brown?
Yeah.
One of his hallmarks was that the guys were really, really fired up. They seemed to be playing for him with a lot of energy and everything. And then, as you recall, Tenuta, it was just like he had a big red button in front of him that said blitz, and his defensive coordination was, do I hit this big red button that says blitz? And he usually did. So I think that it's nice to see somebody that's a mind making these things work, but not to the level of maybe what Charlie Weiss is, where they're overthinking it. Notre Dame is not overthinking anything right now, but they're using intelligence to call plays, which is right where you need to be. I really like that aspect of it.
I think Golick just let somebody by into the backfield again. I don't know. Elijah Shoemate he's on fire these last couple of games. Deuce repping Jujo number.
Yeah,
I love to see him out there, man. He's playing great.
You know, and now that we've had a couple games where I feel like, okay, you know, we have some known quantities. Teo is looking like he's gonna have a total breakout season. You know, obvious side note, the him after the game is absolutely heartbreaking. I couldn't even watch it. But yeah, the fact that we're getting some known quantities and some guys are performing, it's opening you up as a spectator to start looking around on the line, seeing some guys flying around on special teams and all that. So that's an absolute, with how many young, new, fresh faces are contributing. Somebody tweeted, can't remember exactly what the stat was. 53 guys had played by the end of the
53 at 53 the 73 that made the trip had played. That was right, Brian Hart. So, Devontae Neal, when he waved the fair catch, it hit him. He picked it up and took off again. Ticking time bomb. If you remember that,
Is that illegal? Is that what you're asking?
They called delay a game. That's a 5-year. That was a weak penalty, but I never knew that was a rule. So if you wave it off and then it hits you, so then it's that's a live ball, yeah,
right.
You can't advance the ball. It's a delay a game. But he would have gone to the house if that. I don't know the rule, so maybe I learned something last night.
Yeah, but it was nice enough to see the fact that he has the ability to shift his weight very, very quickly. So it didn't work out because of the fair catch. He's still learning back there, but to see him move that quickly, sure, it absolutely is exciting.
Did you see the new Red Army hats? They changed them up a little bit this year. They got some blue on them.
No, the only ones I actually noticed were the Michigan State ones, and I'm like, hey, for the first time ever, I thought the Sparty logo looked kind of cool because the hat was red instead of the green.
I didn't see. I forgot to check this in the box score. Did Golson get sacked at all last night?
Golson.
He got sacked 5 times against Purdue, right?
I think that there might still be a pen mark on the one where his body was completely parallel to the ground. Somebody had to have marked down a sack for that, and then he threw it to the sideline. So
that was pretty.
I don't know. I don't know, man. You just totally stumped me on that, which is a very, very big thing.
Ben Turk is really, really good, maybe great punter. Now, I think both teams had 8 punts for like whatever the stats were, like 240 yards apiece. There were 500 yards worth of
7,000 cumulative
500 yards worth of punts. But Ben Turk, first on that, I don't want to call it a flop, but when he went down and got the penalty, which kept the drive alive, was awesome. Right now, they end up punting at the end of that drive anyways, about 6 plays later. That was a 60-degree wedge. Do you remember that? He punted it to the 2-yard line with backspin, parked it on the 5-yard line. Ben Turk is kicking out of his mind this year.
Yeah,
yes?
Absolutely. I know that you threw that in there because I'm a former punter. I know you're trying to warm my heart. You probably have no concern whatsoever for the punting game. I see right through your ruse. But yes, as a former punter, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, freshman year, I have an absolute. It's the sweet science, baby. It's the art. I love it. The one right at the underneath the 5 was awesome. He only had one that looked like it went off the side of his foot, and it really wasn't that big of a deal because of the time of the game. That leads us right into the field goal kicking. I mean, we have field goal kicking now that's just coming right through. I mean, we've lucked out in that department with Ruffer, but we have guys coming out of the woodwork and contributing, and I really am starting to feel like that's a hallmark of a program, is that people that were the same, there's no excuse to be the same. If you were the guy last year, you need to get better if you want to continue. And even for things like punting, I mean, yeah, it was looking like Jeff Price out there. It was feeling great.
Manti is really, really, really good. He is damn good. We had 12 tackles, the little interception, whatever. Manti is phenomenal. We can't run for shit. Dude, between the tackles, I'm still confused by it. I want a couple last things here. Housekeeping. Michigan State played the Aussie. Oh, the boy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we're not the only one with horrible stadium music.
No, I think that was an absolute. I think that was totally choreographed too because Notre Dame plays it, and I think that's the reason why they did.
Last question for you. Name me one college team from Michigan that doesn't suck.
I have no. Grand Valley's got to still be good, right? Are they still feeling some?
Maybe.
I don't know. There's not one that I root for. I know that much. Does Detroit have a team?
Oakland University, maybe. I don't know. Nah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have one. So.
Michigan's garbage. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I made it through the list here. You got anything else?
No. You and I went golfing before the game yesterday, which was a great time. Swinging some sticks, and I just wanted to dedicate the Irish performance to the guy with the Michigan State golf bag, like we said. I don't know how far we are from East Lansing, but we're well inside of the Indiana border here, and we're a few hours away from Michigan State, so it's not really something we see people repping. And he was like, "Yeah, Notre Dame to the," so whatever. I know he's out there listening because we told him that he should listen to the podcast. But anyway, this is for you, Michigan State golf bag guy.
Peace out.
That's for you.
We're
buddy.
Starting Michigan week. Denard, Shoelace, Skunk Bear, bring it.